Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we slather ourselves in sunscreen and pull some popsicles out of the freezer. It's time for Summer Game Fest. In Parappa Desert, use this magic to survive, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society survives with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I'm joined, as I'm always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, and then on Thursday, we're creating a Switch 2 launch time capsule, because my co-host, Mark Mitchell, you and I got to talk about this. This is our last news episode before the Switch 2 comes out.
I know. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
We're already here. We've only been asking for it for... I don't know, 4 years?
At least.
How long?
I think, let's see, was it 2018 when we did an episode about what we'd like to see in the next Switch?
Yeah. I think we're asking for things as aggressive as better internet connectivity. But we're there. We're getting there. We're almost there.
Oh, yeah, totally. Can I just say, I know intellectually that it is Parappa Desert. And yet, every time
you want to say Parappa,
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
It's tough because obviously I love Parappa the Rapper, and I always I take it personally when I hear people say Parappa the Rapper, and I'm like, that's not his name. He's Parappa the Rapper. He's a proper little rapping gentleman. Well, I mean, as long as we're talking about the Zelda 2 quote right now, we do have a debug from last week. You and I were speculating on what the Goria are in the quote. The
Goria of Tantari.
Yes, the Goria of Tantari stole our statue. The Goria, and I said maybe they're those little spidery guys jumping around the desert. But no, they're the rat men, dog men. It's unclear exactly what they are, but they throw boomerangs in Zelda 2. And then in Link to the Past, they're those either red or blue guys that mirror your movements exactly. But I don't think they're a common. I don't know that we see them too many other times.
No, I don't think so either.
Games.
I always think that they look like. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm blinking on what they're called. They're in Return of the Jedi. They're like those green
Ewoks.
No.
Luke Skywalker?
The green,
Gamorrean guards?
Yes, Gamorrean guards. I think they look like Gamorrean guards.
Yeah, okay. Like pigmen.
Yeah, like pigmen.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And of course, you got to have pigmen on the brain when you're talking about Zelda, because Ganon is a pigman.
He's a pigman.
Do you think he likes looking like that? Do you think he chooses that form? Because as a man, he's a man, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think he chooses that form. No.
And he doesn't like it.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know that it matters that much to him. Because he's after, ultimate power.
Right.
And so, I don't think he really cares what form he is in.
Yeah, I guess that's probably... I guess, but, okay. Ganondorf collects the whole Triforce. It grants his wishes.
Yeah.
And his wishes turn into a pigman?
Is that what happens? What is the relationship? This is too much for
this
just the
too much to tackle right now.
Yeah,
okay. All right. Well, Gamorrean Guard, we know that much for sure. If you would like to support us as we answer these other questions, you can head on over to patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society, where if you are supporting us at the 8-bit or 16-bit levels, you get access to our once-a-month episodes miniseries like NCS Arcade.
Yes, and in fact, we are just finishing the 3rd season of NCS Arcade, and we talked about Wario Land 4, the Game Boy Advance game.
Yeah, so that episode is available right now for people who subscribe at those levels, 8 and 16-bit. We will be doing a listener feedback episode about Wario Land 4. And that'll be available for free to anyone who follows us at any level, including the free level. So email us your questions, comments, observations, whatever about Wario Land 4 or the entire Wario Land oeuvre. No emails about Wario World, though. Get those out of here. Master of Disguise, not a Wario Land game.
Yeah, we decided.
Yeah, just now. Email us Nintendo Cartridge Society
At gmail.com.
and we'll probably do that next week.
Yeah,
I'm
that
guessing.
sounds good.
So get those into us sooner rather than later. If you can spare any brain space to be not thinking about the Switch 2.
Yeah, that's right.
Which how are you doing on that, by the way? Is it taking up a lot of your brain at the moment?
You know, I am living in like pre-order anxiety a little bit.
Yeah,
right.
sure.
I don't really have any reason to think that it's not going to work out, but I just want it in my grubby little hands.
Right. I mean, until we have it
In
our grubby little hands, it's still like partially
theoretical.
fiction. Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly. You can also use that email to join our Discord. Email us. I'll send you an invitation. And more than that, though. Not more than that, just in addition to, here's another thing. We're going to be doing an 866 episode, which is, of course, twice 433. So that's a whole episode where we're just going to be talking about not Nintendo things.
Yes, but in order to do that, we need your questions. Any question you have for us that is not at all Nintendo related, send it in, and it may end up in this 866 episode.
And Mark said question. It can be a question. It can also just be like a conversation starter.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like a prompt, right?
Yes.
Something for us to talk about for a little bit. Just not about Nintendo.
That's right. Anthills. Period. Go.
Sure. Okay.
Nope. Save it for 866.
I just like it makes me think of those like termite mounds. And those monkeys that go like fishing.
You're giving away the good stuff.
Okay.
You know we're gonna be talking about those
I'm
monkeys that are using that stick to like
they're like
It's like nerds on a rope.
It's just like that. They're using tools, Mark. All right. let's get into what we've been playing this week. For the last time, probably on our Switch ones, right?
Yeah, probably.
I'm just gonna be making those sorts of like observation declarations.
Boy, are we gonna look foolish when on like later on Tuesday, Nintendo's like, do you know what? We're holding it up a week.
Yeah, yes. Or they're like, you know what? Forget it. We're just not launching it.
Closing, going out of business.
Right.
Alarmo didn't take off.
Right.
They don't know what to do.
And that bankrupted them. Yeah. So, I mean, this week I've finished up Wario Land 4. You can hear me talking about that on our episode. I also finished up Resident Evil 4 Remake, Mark.
Oh, nice.
Not obviously on Switch, but
hopefully fingers crossed on Switch too.
Oh my gosh, I would love it if it came out on Switch too. And you can hear me talk about that on the Super NPC Games Club if you're a part of their Patreon, or like 18 months from now when it goes on their free feed. The only thing I want to say about Resident Evil 4 here, and then we don't have to talk about it on the show ever again until it's released on Switch 2, is the first two acts of that game, the village and the castle, are so iconic and cool. And there are set pieces in both of them that are like part of the Resident Evil canon and part of the greater video game canon in a way where you're just like, I close my eyes, I picture video games, and they appear in the montage, right? The death montage for video games, scenes from those two parts of Resident Evil 4 will be present. The final third of that game, which is fun and fine and whatever, not iconic.
No, I agree with you completely. That when I think of Resident Evil 4, I think of the village, I think of the like castle, like I think of all of that stuff, and then it just kind of loses so much of what makes it interesting because it just becomes dudes with guns.
It's a lot of dudes with guns. There's like a army guy who was your, mentor, and then like the cult leader, right? And it's like that's like what it is. And it's kind of just like, again, like not I enjoyed the end of the game like quite a bit. It's just an absurd. The game is so front loaded and so middle loaded that they're like, well, and then we have to finish it. So here's the end.
Yeah, I think the gameplay in the last part, and I'm talking about the original. I haven't played the remake. I don't know how much they change it up, but I think the gameplay stays consistently fun throughout. It just totally loses the atmosphere and mystery of a, horror game, or like even a fun horror game like the Resident Evil series tends to be. Yeah, it's just kind of I think it speaks to the strength of those first two parts.
Yes.
That it's still one of the best games ever, even if the third part is just not that remarkable.
Right. Yes, totally. Well, and it's also interesting that like especially when the original first came out, that and I think everyone kind of views Resident Evil 4 as like the pivot point from survival horror to action. And that I sort of resented it when it first came out because I was like, I like this slower paced survival horror, tank controls, like I like all that stuff. And the game is still great. But what came after it was like more action focused, and Resident Evil's 5 and 6. 5 is still pretty good, right? 6 is kind of a mess. But like just seeing that as the pivot point, and it's even like a pivot point within the game, right? That it starts off creepier and more atmospheric, and by the end, it's just running around shooting stuff. That's like, oh, okay, like this is it. This is the whole franchise in micro.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
But that's most of. I also picked up Picross 9, because I wanted a Picross game to, like just do a hard reset on my brain. And so I bought the most recent Picross S9, and I've been playing that.
Well, in the last couple of weeks, we talked about, I've been a little bit of not really knowing where to go, just kind of wanting a palate cleanser before the Switch 2 comes out. And we had mentioned the Super Mario Advance games, which I'd never played before. So I played through Super Mario Advance, which is in fact Super Mario 2, Super Mario Brothers 2,
yes,
remade for the Game Boy Advance. And then also started Super Mario Advance 4, which is Super Mario Brothers 3. But I went straight to the e-reader levels.
Right.
But and I've only played a few of those. But
just a quick explainer of what the e-reader levels are.
Oh yeah, so on the Game Boy Advance, there was an accessory that you could buy, which was like an accessory that you would plug into the cartridge slot of the Game Boy Advance. Then you could buy these cards that had like a code on them. I can't remember if it was like a magnetic strip or something like that.
I think it was all barcodes.
Okay,
because
barcodes.
You could use the reader to just like scan any barcode.
Okay,
yeah.
And then so you would scan the barcode, and it could do certain things. But the only thing I know offhand that it could do is open up these levels, these like new levels in Super Mario Brothers 3.
Yes.
And so, but obviously the e-reader doesn't work anymore, but all of those levels are available on the Nintendo Classics version of Super Mario Advance 4.
Which was also true of the versions that made it to, I guess the only other virtual console place would be the Wii U. Yeah, exactly.
So Super Mario Advance, which again is Super Mario Brothers 2, was really interesting. I'd never played any of these before, and I know the reputation of them, which is that, it has like all this voice acting and all this kind of stuff, but I wasn't really prepared for just how every aspect of it is like the maximalist version of Super Mario Brothers 2. Like it's not just that everything is always talking at you,
even though that is true.
That is very true. It's also that there's all these like visual flourishes that are pointless to the gameplay, but like they have giant Shy Guys and giant vegetables, just as like they act basically exactly like, I guess the giant vegetables, when you throw them, they like bounce for longer, or like can take out enemies for longer. I'm not really sure.
Do they, or is it just that like because it's bigger, it has a higher probability of like hitting a guy?
Yeah,
so
that could be it.
Yeah.
So it's like things like that, but like every aspect of it is amped up to 11. Like you finish a level and it doesn't just say course cleared, it says like course cleared, and then the letters all sparkle and there's little like sparks that fly off of it.
Right.
Like it's a lot. But the thing that really drove me crazy through the entire experience of playing it, and especially at the beginning, I was like, something about this is just off, and it's the scrolling. Because I went back to the NES, like Nintendo Classics, and the Super Nintendo one for All Stars, because All Stars is the version that I played the most growing up. And what's really interesting is the Game Boy Advance has a wider screen than just like a regular like 4x3 CTR television.
CRT television.
CRT television.
Cathode ray tube.
And so it has a
Mark patiently nodding at me.
No, I'm just trying to so it has a wider screen, but the choice they made was to like zoom in closer on the action so the character is larger, but it also means that the like field of view is smaller.
Right.
And yet in a lot of places they made the decision to like bring in items. So it's like on one place it was really obvious is like in the first world or the first level of Super Mario Brothers 2, you enter a like a door, and then you're in this area, and to the left is a little bit of like a cliff that you have to jump up on, and then there's a beanstalk that's going up, or like a vine that you have to like climb, and there's one of those like star ninjas, I guess.
Yeah, it's a ninja. Yeah.
That's like jumping up and down. And then in the NES version and the Super Nintendo version, you enter and you can you have to move to your left in order to see the stalk and see that it's like there.
Yes.
But in the Super Mario Advance, you enter the door and without moving, you can see it. Like it's there. It's like brought into frame.
Right.
So everything's like compressed.
Well, and part of that is like the camera shifts so that like Mario sees the space, or Luigi or Toad or Princess sees the space in front of them. So like depending on which direction you're facing, the camera sort of like adjusts to like give you more of a view of that side. So like as you're walking to the right, the camera is Mario's not centered. He's like a little bit to the left, and if you're moving to the left, Mario's a little bit to the right.
But the problem with that is that in Super Mario Brothers 2, anytime that the camera shifts, the action stops.
Right.
And so it's not happening smoothly. So if you're in a space that is in between those two like perspective shifts, and you go like back and forth, it means like the camera is moving for maybe like what feels like an eternity, but it's probably like half seconds or something. And so you like move one way, the camera's going to move and you're stuck. You move the other way, you even just like turn the other direction, the camera moves and it's stuck. The same is true for like vertical up and down, and it just makes playing the game feel bad, or at least very different from how I remember the scrolling working.
Well, and the thing that's so like perplexing about that is that it's like a solved problem in the original Super Mario Brothers 2, right? That like, and in like all the Mario games really, that like never before has the 2D camera been a problem in a Mario game, and yet Super Mario Advance 2 has like a bad camera.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why they made the choice to like bring the camera in closer. Maybe it's because it was a handheld on kind of a crappy screen.
Well, so we talked about this a little bit in our Wario Land 4 conversation, but because the pixel density is so not dense. What's the opposite of dense? Effuse in a Game Boy Advance screen, that to like properly replicate a sprite that looks like that design of Mario, he just has to physically be bigger. It's the same reason that Mario is big in Mario Land 2 Six Golden Coins, because they're trying to recreate the Super NES sprite, but you're going from a 16-bit system to like basically 4-bit system, and so to achieve that same level of detail, the character needs to be like twice as tall, and take up like relatively that much more screen real estate. And I think that is also what we're seeing on GBA.
Yeah, so it's just like an unfortunate pile-on of choices that I feel like, they just went a little wild with the capabilities that they had. And in that way, I guess it is a showcase, but it's like I'm glad I experienced it because it is so weird to play it.
Yes.
If you're familiar with the other ones, with the other versions, but I would probably not choose to play it again in this form.
If you had to rank the versions of Super Mario Brothers 2, how would you rank them?
I would do the Super NES All Stars version because that's the one that I've played the most, followed by the NES version. And if we're just talking about like Super Mario Brothers USA, like not Lost Levels, then I think I'm not sure what other ways there are to play it, but whatever it is, Advance is at the bottom.
I really think it's mostly those three ways. We actually did get an email from Drew Mackey, who like posed the question of, is Super Mario Brothers 2 the most remade Mario game? And it goes on to ask a separate question there that you and I will talk about off mic, because it may be a possible discussion for a future episode. But I mean, I think that probably, right? Like the rest of these Super Mario Advance. Well, no, I guess Super Mario Brothers 3 would be in the same boat, right? Because you have the original NES version, the Super NES All Stars version, and Mario Advance.
Yeah. What versions of Drew? Let us know. What versions of Super Mario Brothers 2 are you missing? Because wouldn't it also be true of? Oh no, I guess the NES ones would have to.
Yeah, so so the reason that Super Mario Brothers 1 wouldn't be included in that list is that there's no Super Mario Advance. Although there is Super Mario Brothers Deluxe on Game Boy Color. So I guess there are also 3 versions of that.
And then there's also, I don't know if you'd consider it a remake, but there's the version that was part of the and like the Versus arcade system.
Yeah, Super Mario Brothers Versus. Yeah, that's true. That is a little bit different too. So yeah, maybe the original Super Mario Brothers is the most remade Super Mario Brothers game. That would make sense to me. I mean, unless we want to loop in Doki Doki Panic as like the original Super Mario Brothers USA, then I guess there would be 4 versions of that game.
Right.
Anyway, just a question that Drew brought up that I was like, yeah, I wonder. I do wonder, because really, after that era, the Mario games don't get remade.
Right.
Except for 64. I guess we did get a remake of 64 on the DS.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
But like we've not had a remake of Sunshine or either of the Galaxy games. Obviously not Odyssey, none of the new games.
Never got a remake of World.
Right. Well, no, Super Mario Advance 2 is Super Mario World. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so did you have any thoughts on Super Mario Advance 4?
I've just been playing the e-reader levels, and I've only done a handful of them, and I can't tell if. I mean, honestly, I don't think that the first few of them are just remakes of the first few levels of the original Super Mario Brothers, which I don't think is that interesting. But then some of the e-reader levels start introducing mechanics from Super Mario World, like the ability to like run up walls and all that kind of stuff.
There's a cape power up in there too, right?
I haven't gotten there, but I would believe it since that other stuff is there. I don't know. There are other levels e-reader levels that are just straight up Mario 3 levels, like nothing is done in them that couldn't be done previously, and they all seem fine. It's so hard for me to tell with I've been playing Super Mario Brothers 3 for like 20 years, 25 years or something like that. So it's hard for me to tell, like, is this
probably like 30 years?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So it's like, is this not as good as those levels, or have I just been living with those levels for 30 years and so I'm just not familiar with these new ones?
Right. It's an impossible question. Did you have to learn to play through or did you need to learn how to ride a bike before you could get access to the e-reader levels? You know the story, right?
No.
I was having a hard time learning how to ride a bike when I was a child.
Oh, I do think I know this.
And my dad was like, if you learn how to ride a bike without trading wheels, I'll buy you Super Mario Brothers 3. And I was like, deal. So I figured it out. It's also weird to play those e-reader levels in a post-Mario Maker world, because the novelty of like, here is an unexpected arrangement of these familiar assets in like presented in a Mario level, is like that novelty is gone now.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I still think these are probably closest to the Nintendo made levels in like the story mode of Super Mario Maker 2, in that they're functional and fun for normal people to play through.
Yes, right. Which, hey, Mario Maker, that's not always the case. All right, Mark, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases, Mark, and what we might be playing next week.
Okay, well, we first have to talk about Nintendo Music.
We have to.
Obligatory. um, so last week when we recorded last Monday, there wasn't an update, but that's because Nintendo was saving and putting the original Splatoon games soundtrack on there on Tuesday in the US, Wednesday in Japan to celebrate Splatoon's 10th anniversary.
Right, so now all 3 of these Splatoon games are represented on the app. We're still waiting for some of the DLC tracks,
I think that's right.
From
I think that's
Splatoon
right.
2.
And then this week, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom soundtrack got added to it. But also, they added a little note saying that there will be no update next week.
Interesting.
Yeah, so let's put a pin in that. We'll come back to that later, I think,
all right.
in the conversation.
All right, very good.
But let's get into game releases. So tomorrow, Wednesday, June 4th, Deltarune chapter 1 to 4 is released digitally on Switch, and that will work on Switch too.
Interesting that they're launching it the day before.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Why?
And then, of course, Thursday, June 5th is Switch 2 and everything that is coming out for Switch 2, which is more than I realized.
Sure.
Like, all laid out here, it's like a lot of games. I think much more than were available at the Switch's launch.
Yeah, I mean, the Switch's launch was pretty slim, really. And there's a lot of games that are coming to Switch 2 that aren't actually new.
Yeah,
right?
that very true.
That are like Switch 2 versions, either that were available on Switch, OG Switch originally, and games that have just been released on other platforms previously. So we're Split Fiction, Street Fighter 6, Cyberpunk, Sonic and Shadow Generations. Like I feel like all of that kind of falls in that bucket.
Yeah, I think pretty much every third party release is one that has like previously been released on Switch or on
think not the Bravely Default HD remaster.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that is a new third party game.
Also Survival Kits. Which,
yes.
If that sounds familiar, it's because it was added to the Game Boy library on Nintendo Classics like last week, and then I totally forgot that this was in the Switch 2 reveal, and we learned a little bit more about it today, actually, which is that it is running on Unity, and it is a game share game, and so so I think like up to 3 people, maybe 4 people can play it. Like even on if someone with Switch 2, it can share it down to a Switch 1 simultaneously.
But only locally.
Only locally.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas the Switch 2 to Switch 2, you can share
online.
Right. Okay, great.
Yep.
So obviously, this is where we're like, are you interested in any of these games? Of course, we're going to be, Mark is going to be picking up his Switch 2. I'm hopefully going to be getting mine at some point over the weekend because I ordered it from Nintendo. Do you have plans beyond Mario Kart World and Nintendo Switch to Welcome Tour? What's it called?
Yeah, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour.
A Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour,
So
yes.
I think that I'm going to get Cyberpunk.
Okay, very good.
And
I believe I will meet you in Cyberpunk.
Hi.
I'm also going to grab Street Fighter 6 Years 1 through 2 Fighter Edition.
Yeah, I am totally caught up in like the launch excitement because I don't think there's any world that I would otherwise buy Street Fighter 6.
Right?
But
you
I'm
might.
kind of tempted. I don't know. But that's really what I have my heart set on right now is I think I'm going to get Cyberpunk, and then of course I'll have Mario Kart World, and I'm pretty sure I want to do a Breath of the Wild playthrough again as the Nintendo Switch 2 edition. But I don't know where I'm going to find time for that and Cyberpunk, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do.
Who needs time? We're just getting new stuff here, Mark. It's exciting. Let me ask you this. Have you seen, I think it was just earlier today, but it might have been over the weekend, that that Game Freak was showing off Pokemon Scarlet and Violet playing on Switch 2, which is not like a Switch 2 edition of the game, but it is just like with that's the sort of like soft updates of the new hardware, and just like seeing it running with those like improved frame rates and like better draw distances and stuff, like Pokemon not popping in, and there being like a pond full of like teaming with Pokemon and it not like slowing down the frame rate at all, kind of made me go, wait a minute.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I think I also have grand designs to like get back into Breath of the Wild, but I think I'm gonna go back to whichever one of those I bought, Scarlet or Violet, and play more of it, because it looks like it's not broken anymore.
Yeah, what's interesting is that they did specific work on it. So it's not
Yes.
like Link's Awakening where they didn't do anything and we're assuming that it's going to work better.
They did do something with Link's Awakening, but it's just not the frame rate specifically was not addressed. It's like HDR and other stuff like that.
Got it. But yeah, there are just so many like versions of Switch 2 stuff.
Yes.
There's the ones where they didn't do anything.
Right.
And it'll just naturally do what it's going to do.
Right.
Then there's like Scarlet and Violet where they did specific work to make it run better, but it's not like a Nintendo Switch 2 version upgrade that you have to pay for.
Right. And then there's the Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom where they did do work on it so that it runs better. It runs better because the hardware is better, and they charge you for it, and there's like a little bit extra. And then there's the Kirby and the Forgotten Land. What's the other one?
The Super Mario Party Jamboree.
Yeah, Super Mario Party Jamboree. That is all of that plus new content. Too many levels of this
yeah,
stuff.
lots of
4
levels.
different levels as far
but
as
I mean, yeah, it is pretty. That we're caught up in the launch system excitement when Patrick's like, I'm going back to
a Pokemon game. Look, I'm gonna play the new Legends game. I've decided. So and this is all on top of Mark. We're gonna play Wind Waker, right?
I know, that's the thing. I haven't played Wind Waker for decades. Like, I haven't played Wind Waker for so long.
Yeah, we're gonna have brand new GameCube controllers.
Yeah,
itching to play something.
Yep. But that's pretty much it. There's just so much. Oh, of course, also the Amiibo. Amiibo are coming out.
Right. Yes. When of course I'm getting all of those.
The Street Fighter 6 ones and the Tears of the Kingdom. Not champions.
Right. They are sages. I think there's a very real possibility that I end up getting Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S, because Puyo Puyo Tetris is super fun. And then Mark, so help me, I'm considering buying Sonic Cross Shadow Generations, playing it for a time, and then reviving an old program of ours.
Oh, interesting.
We used to do a Sonic Forces borrowing program where anyone could write in, say they want to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces. I would send it to you. You play it for as long as you want and then send it back. I'm considering doing this with Sonic Cross Shadow Generations.
That would be very fun. I mean, the Sonic Forces borrowing program was with us for a long time. We had multiple copies of Sonic Forces and a titled Goose Game.
That's true.
Roaming the world at one time, and they all found good homes in the end.
Right.
I don't know. An exciting time to be a Nintendo fan. That's for sure.
All right. So that's everything. All right, Mark. Let's close out the new releases. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So for the duration of one performance, 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Today, we are in honor of the Switch 2, and this is the only time I'm going to mention a Nintendo thing during this segment. In the honor of its launch, we're going to talk about the first midnight launch we ever attended. Do you remember what the first midnight launch you attended was, Mark?
For me, it was the Phantom Menace.
It was also the Phantom Menace for me.
I think that was very early. I can't definitively say that it was the first midnight release for a movie, but it was very early into like midnight releases.
Right. Well, it would have to be something that like had that spark of anticipation before the movie came out, right? And like obviously blockbusters had existed for a while, and like, like people saw like Titanic a bunch and all that stuff, but like a lot of those movies you don't know they're going to be a huge hit until they come out.
And they didn't have that like built-in fandom
Yes.
that a new Star Wars movie did. So how did you, because this was, of course, like Star Wars Phantom Menace came out in 1999. So this was before like online ticket sales. This was before reserved seating in like 99% of multiplexes in the country.
Right.
So how did you procure your tickets for the Phantom Menace?
Yeah, so I went to this movie with my friend Liz, my wonderful dork friend Liz, and I believe her mom had bought us tickets.
Oh.
And then like took us to the movie.
Oh, that's fun.
Because I mean, I would have been like 15 in 1999. No, 16, I guess. Wait, however old I was. I feel like it was before I was driving, but that can't possibly be right. But like before it was appropriate for me to be out until 2 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, that's how. And then I think we had only got to the theater like an hour before, like maybe at 11 or something, and stood in line. And then it didn't really matter where we sat because we were seeing Star Wars.
Right. Yeah.
Do you remember how you got tickets? And
yeah, I do. So I got tickets because I was in, I don't know, like junior high or something.
Yeah.
And so the way I got tickets was that my older sister's friend, who was they were in high school, like they camped out in order to buy
save
tickets.
the spot in line for you.
And no, they camped out to buy they camped out to buy tickets.
Yeah.
And they either bought an extra ticket because she asked them to, or they had an extra ticket and I was able to like tag along with them to go see it. And yeah, because there was like no way that I was going to be able to like camp out outside the movie theater in order to
you were a child
buy tickets.
Although you're a child, so what else did you have to do?
Right.
So I remember I saw all 3 of the prequel releases at midnight, like on when they came out, and like I'm so glad that is not part of like the movie going culture now, where like midnight movies are like 5 o'clock the day before.
Right.
Who cares? No one has to stay up late anymore. But yeah, it is an exciting thing, and just to know that like this is the one where the one that becomes the fan event is the midnight one.
Yeah. No, that was always like really fun. I didn't see Attack the Clones at midnight, I don't think, but I definitely saw Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah,
at midnight. That like midnight showing.
After seeing Phantom Menace at midnight, I did go on to see it 8 more times in the theater.
I think I saw Phantom Menace, I want to say like 4.5. There was one time after my sister's high school graduation that like my dad took me and my sister, and then we all fell asleep.
Do you have other like early memorable midnight launches besides Phantom Menace?
No, midnight launches are not really like an experience that I have had very much in my life. I guess like,
did you do like any of the Harry Potter books?
No, okay. not Harry Potter. And like movie wise, I think I saw Return of the King maybe at like a midnight showing or something like that.
Which is tough because that goes until like 4.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut off the thing, but I do just want to mention that I was. I assume you probably were excited about Lord of the Rings, the movies coming out before.
No,
they did.
I didn't know anything about, like, I hadn't read Lord of the Rings or anything like that until like the first movie came out, and then I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I read the book and everything at that point.
Right. Okay. I had grown up reading the books, and I was working at Hollywood Video when the first one came out, and I was closing that night at Hollywood Video. We were supposed to close at midnight, and I had tickets to the midnight showing of Fellowship of the Ring. And I remember just making the decision to close the store 30 minutes early, so I could. No one rents a movie between 11:30 and midnight on a Thursday night. Come on.
Especially Hollywood Video was so generous with its return fees. You know, like with its like late fees. Did you even have late fees?
Yeah, of course we had late fees.
You had 5 days to like watch a movie.
5 whole days, which at the time felt like it was
groundbreaking.
A revolution. We were accompanied today by Jim Carrey, Judd Apatow, Spike Jonze, and Chris Smith. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
All right, well, let's do just a little bit of a final check-in before Switch 2 launch. So I have mine from Best Buy. I was able to get like an in-store pickup pre-order.
Very jealous of both like the ritual that goes along with that and the certainty that you're going to have a Switch 2.
Well, I mean, yes,
The relative certainty.
I feel like 80% certain, maybe 90% certain. The only thing that gave me a little bit of pause is that I woke up Sunday morning to see that at like 3 a.m. Best Buy had tried to charge my credit card for the Switch 2, and my card had flagged it for fraud. But and then they had also I bought my Switch 2. I pre-ordered my Switch 2. And then the next day, also from Best Buy, I pre-ordered a bunch of accessories. And starting at like midnight on Sunday, they had charged my card for the accessories, but they didn't do it as like one purchase. They charged my card for each individual accessory.
Odd.
And so I think what happened is that, because all those went through fine. So that started like midnight, and the final one was like the Switch 2 console itself, which they tried to do at like 3. And so I think what happened maybe is that it got flagged because it was such a large amount, and there were these 4 or 5 other charges on the same card that it started to look suspicious. I don't really know, but Best Buy gave you so they also sent an email. Best Buy sent an email being like, you have 47 hours to update your cart, like your payment information before it's canceled, which was great. So I went to the website, was able to like basically just confirm my card, got a push notification from my bank, said yes to that, and then they sent another email. Best Buy sent another email being like, you have successfully confirmed your information. And then so all the charges are on my card right now, but I don't know if they are true charges or if they're just another check and that I won't actually be charged until pickup.
Yeah, so I was not able to get the Switch pre-ordered at Best Buy, but I did pre-order all of the Amiibo except for Yunobo, and the Street Fighter 6 cards, which I had to get from GameStop. So and I think that was it. I think that's all I got from Best Buy were the Amiibo. And so I did get like the emails being like, hey, double check these, make sure your payment information is updated. And I'm using my Best Buy credit card, which I have, but it has not been charged yet. I just know that when I pick them up, it will charge that card.
Got it.
And meanwhile, Nintendo charged, because my Switch is pre-ordered from Nintendo.com, and they charged me the second I pre-ordered it. Like they charged the card right away. And that went through no problem. The notice on the page now when I go to check on the order, it says preparing to ship. And it says like shipping by 6/5/25, which is the day of release. And then it does say 3 to 9 business days for delivery, which if they're shipping it by 6/5, that could mean that it ships, today, Tuesday, right? That's possible. But if it goes as late as 6/5 and they ship it on 6/5, and then 9 business days after that is almost 2 weeks.
I feel like they're giving themselves a big window.
I think so too. That's my assumption is that if I don't get it on Thursday, that I'll get it on like Friday, possibly Saturday.
One thing that I saw online that you can check if you have My UPS is that people were seeing their shipment from Nintendo like in the My UPS thing.
Oh, interesting. Before
it just so like they've already packed it, they've already assigned it a number, they just haven't delivered it to UPS yet, and so it just says that it's like UPS is waiting for delivery. You can see the tracking number. I think Nintendo uses UPS, FedEx, USPS, so there's no guarantee.
Right.
But I did see online that some people were reporting that they could see the shipment waiting to go out from Nintendo. Do
we think there's a single centralized place that the US Switches are being shipped from, or they probably have?
I think Nintendo has, like Nintendo of America, Nintendo has one warehouse, and I think it's in Washington. I think everything is coming from there.
Okay. All right. Well, so, we're a little bit closer to Washington than like Texas. So maybe I don't know. I just really don't want to wait.
No, for sure, for sure.
I'm ready. I'm ready for this thing to happen.
Well, if you weren't able to get a pre-order, U.S. retailers are saying that they will have some units this week. What that means,
Yes,
like all that kind of stuff. I'm sure they'll still be very difficult to get, or at least I would anticipate that. But Staples, some Staple stores will have them.
How odd.
I know.
Staples.
Well, does it make you okay? Staples, Costco, Best Buy says that they will have some. GameStop says they will have some. Target, Walmart, all the usual places. But yes, Staples.
Plus Staples and Costco, yes.
Do you think that this means that there will be more Switch 2s available than we expected?
That's a good question.
The fact that, I guess I've never really tracked before whether Staples was in on the PlayStation 5 or, like launch. Like, I have no idea.
Well, I just know that, like, they were not part of my going to physical retail, part of that gauntlet when I was trying to buy, like, the Wii 20 years ago.
Right.
And, like, but Toys R Us was, and Toys R Us no longer exists. So, I wonder if that's just like another...
Staples is the adult Toys R Us.
Staples, wow. That is a wonderful observation, Mark. Thank you. That's why you're on this show.
And only that reason. So yeah, it is interesting that, I don't know. Part of me, there's a tiny, it really is just a tiny part of me is like, is this going to be another Wii U situation where we're all like, oh, this is going to be so hard to get,
and then it's just not.
You're just the world is lousy with Wii U's.
You go into CVS and there's one just like end caps packed with Switch 2s.
Yeah,
it's a good question because the pre-order situation has felt like it is scarce, right?
Yeah,
pre-orders feel valuable. They feel rare. I guess we will in just a couple days know whether that's borne out in reality.
Yeah, it just seems so unlikely to me that like immediately it would be available everywhere and easily to get. But I don't know. Best of luck to everybody.
Yes, good luck everyone.
Also starting this Saturday, select Best Buys are hosting Game Truck theaters. Game Truck is like stylized in a way that appears to be like a thing. Like a company or like an entity that everybody's just like, oh yes, Game Truck, but I had never heard of it before.
Look, we all know about Game Truck. We all have fond memories growing up with Game Truck.
Yes.
So we've seen them at birthday parties
and at Best Buys, select Best Buys, where there will be these Game Truck theaters on Saturdays throughout the summer. So you can try out a Switch 2. You can earn 100 My Nintendo Platinum points. There will be giveaways, and the Best Buy website says that stores may have limited Nintendo Switch 2 inventory for purchase at the time. The store schedule is up for the next 3 Saturdays on like the Best Buy's website, and it's kind of like all over the country. And it sounds like they'll be updating it throughout the rest of the summer. So, I wasn't able to get into the like Nintendo Switch 2 preview that Nintendo was doing.
Right.
And so if you're still on the fence about the Switch 2 or just want to check it out before you're ready to pick one up, this may be a good opportunity if it's coming to Best Buy near you.
I can even kind of wrap my head around the concept of Game Truck. Game Truck Theater is the part that, what is happening there?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like a game truck that brings one of those blow up planetariums that would come to elementary schools.
Yeah.
And then you go inside, that you have to crawl into the planetarium, then they give you Switch 2 consoles to play.
That you hold above your head. And see the constellations on it.
Tethered to a booth babe.
Yeah, perfect. What if it's like, when you go to the airport, it's like security theater? It's like not really security, but like it makes you feel a little bit better.
Yeah, so is it a game truck theater where the like artificial part of it is the game truck?
Right, there's not really a game truck.
It's not really a game truck.
It's really more of like a couple bicycles taped together. Yeah, weird. I mean, I remember, Mark, and I think you did this too, on the release of Mario Kart Wii, that there were these sort of like mobile experiences, kind of just like, they weren't even at Best Buys, they were just like around the country, where like you could go into a trailer and play a Mario Kart Wii experience.
I never did that.
My buddy Taylor and I went to one in Chicago, when we both lived there, that they were like, come get your Mario Kart driver's license. And we were like, cool, what is this going to be? And it was nothing. They didn't even have like cards that you could fill out to be like my license. It was just like their way to like entice you to like go and like play Mario Kart Wii in a trailer in the park or whatever. A sort of game truck. That was real game truck theater right there.
Big question.
Yes.
Is Nintendo participating in Summer Game Fest? The Switch 2 logo is included in a list of partners for the yearly showcase, and it kicks off this Friday, June 6th, so not that far away. Just one day after the Switch 2's official release. So, but what does it mean?
Yes.
What does it mean? Because Nintendo famously has not participated ever in Summer Game Fest.
Right. Well, and part of that is just that, like, Summer Game Fest, as it became a thing to sort of replace E3, sort of very nicely coincided with Nintendo being like, you know what, we're just going to be kind of quiet for a little while here. They still did do a fairly large like E3 time presentation in 2023, right? And 2024?
Yeah, man, I used to remember. I can't even
remember
now. Like, they didn't do one in 2020, which I think was the first year of Summer Game Fest.
Yes,
maybe?
That's right.
Oh no, 2020.
That's when they had like a partner showcase, right? That had that like WWE game.
No,
in it.
I think that was 2021. I used to know this.
Yes,
I don't right now.
Now we're all
but
we're out of our depth.
But
here.
yes, but you're right. They have always kind of done their own June thing, in the like latter half of June, and Summer Game Fest wasn't a part of that. Also, Jeff Keighley, is responsible for Summer Game Fest, and I feel like since Reggie Fils-Aimé left Nintendo of America, they just haven't really engaged with like the Game Awards or any of that kind of stuff.
Right. However, Game Awards the year the Switch 1 came out was like an active, like that's where they revealed the second part of the Breath of the Wild DLC, and it was available that day, like the same day that it was revealed at the Game Awards. And then the year after that was when they revealed Joker was coming as DLC to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So like, if we can divine anything about the future from the past with Nintendo, which I know is foolish, we can maybe assume that they want to like re-engage some of those like PR gears in the first year of the Switch 2.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have stuff to talk about now.
Right.
So I feel like that there are three possibilities as to what this means, because
let's lay them out.
Because nobody has said anything, right? Like, it's not like Nintendo has official. Like when Nintendo, when it was revealed that Nintendo was going to be at Gamescom at the end of August in Europe, Nintendo of Europe put out a tweet saying, "Yep, we're going to be at Gamescom." And I don't think there's been anything like that from Jeff Keighley, from Nintendo of America. So all we have is this logo. I think the logo, there's three possibilities. One is that Nintendo will reveal something, right? They have, they're going to be part of it in a more active way.
Possible. However, I think if they're going to reveal something, it's likely that they just do their own direct.
I would think so too.
Right.
The second part is that the second possibility in my mind is that Nintendo is not involved directly, but third parties will be talking about Switch 2 games, and so that's why the logo is there.
Hey, likely. I would also guess that a lot of games that are going to be revealed or premiered for the first time here are going to be revealed as it's coming to all the modern platforms: PS5, Xbox One S, and Switch 2, right? I think that's going to be the target for a lot of games for a while. And it'll maybe be a dumbed down version on Switch 2, or maybe even not, right? I think there are some of these just mainstream games that are going to try to hit all platforms.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. EA has reconfirmed that Madden 26 is coming to Switch 2.
Yes.
And I think we are supposed to learn more about that game this week. It'll be interesting to see, is it a feature compromised version for Switch 2, or is it just feature parity with everything else?
Right.
So I think the third possibility is actually one that Jeff Gerstmann pointed out on Blue Sky, which is basically that just because they're a partner on the list could just mean that they're going to do some sort of quick, the Switch 2 is out today,
just
a clip on the stream.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and nothing more than that.
Yeah. Well, which also I think very, very possible. I think 2 and 3 here, both those options totally likely.
Yeah, because I feel like Nintendo has cultivated directs as such a like specific thing that and it's so close to the Switch 2's release that
Right.
to me it just makes the most sense that it will be
virtually simultaneous, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe they'll surprise us. During the Switch 2 reveal, IO Interactive announced a Hitman game and their, at the time, upcoming untitled James Bond game for the Switch 2. Yesterday, they revealed that the name of the game is 007 First Light, and we'll learn more about it during a live stream also on Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific.
So is that technically part of Summer Game Fest?
I don't know. I don't know if it's part of Summer Game Fest or if it's just like when Nintendo would hold their direct during around the time of E3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, because I mean, as you said, this is a game that they said is coming to Switch 2. So like, here's one, right? Like, here's one third-party game that's going to be talked about on Friday. Maybe not as part of Summer Game Fest, but I don't know. A lot of these things are just firing all at the same time,
Right? Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about 007 First Light.
Sure.
Just because, I mean, it's a new James Bond game that's very interesting, especially coming from a studio that has like proven themselves with like the Hitman games to like have these sort of like stealth infiltration action pedigree, right? That would serve James Bond really well. So two things is they've shown off the title and this like sort of teaser image, which is like a James Bond in silhouette.
In a first light, you might say.
That's right. Being like backlit by a bright light. And for my money, what we see of the James Bond there does not easily map onto any of the known James Bond actors.
Yeah, and I think I expect that to be the case.
Yeah, that it will not be one of the. Do you think it is another celebrity? Like, do we think we're getting like?
No.
You think it's just going to be like whatever kind of James Bond they designed?
I think so.
Is it grown-up James Bond Jr.?
And does he look like Tintin?
Does he look just like a little bit like Tintin? I also want to just talk about the title, First Light, because that is not a very James Bondy.
No, it's
title.
not. It's not.
There was a during COVID, like during the like height of the pandemic, I watched all the James Bond movies with my buddy Drew. And afterwards did a ranking of the James Bond movie titles by how James Bondy they are. And so I came up with a set of criteria, and like some of those are like the word kill, the word love, the word die. The average number of words in a James Bond title is 3 words. And usually they will refer to either the love interest or the villain or the villain's plan. And this, to my eyes, does none of these things.
Yeah. It needs kind of like I feel like a grammatical contradiction in there.
Yeah.
Because, I always think of like A View to a Kill.
Yep.
Where it's just like, I guess it's not wrong.
Right, but it's like,
interesting.
It's a weird part of the sentence.
Yes. Yeah. Like and I also feel like it needs some sort of like contradiction where it's like, oh, it's like light. So it needs to be balanced with talk of like first light of death or like first light of night or like something, first light of darkness or something like that. You know what I mean?
No, I totally agree. And first light is like, it's just not doing. First light kind of sounds like generic video game subtitle.
Oh, I understand where you're coming from with James Bond Jr. though, because it's like first light. Like, is this his first mission? Is it young James Bond?
Right. Which, we see in a lot of James Bond movies, and that's like what Casino Royale, the Daniel Craig one.
Yeah, but in this version, he's like 20.
Oh man,
he can't drink yet.
He's
well, I guess
what
he
does
can.
He order if he can? Well, he's in Europe.
Yeah.
Right. What does James Bond order if he can't drink alcohol?
If he's traveled to Nashville and he can't, he can't get into any of the bars.
James Bond travels to a dry town and has to order a Shirley Temple. I like that. I want to see someone put James Bond in a situation where he has to order a virgin cocktail. I don't know. I think this is cool. I'm interested in it.
Yeah. It'll definitely be interesting to see what their take on 007 is.
Yep.
All that said, there are rumors that Nintendo is prepping a Nintendo Direct for this week? Question mark?
Some week
or next week? Double question mark.
One fewer question mark on that one.
I feel like if Nintendo sticks to their pattern, a June Direct would be most likely in the latter half of the month, like around
Yes.
like the 20th or something like
Yeah.
that.
Here's the thing: we still need a release date for Prime 4, and it's possible they still have like stuff to show us about Prime 4, but maybe not. But like the schedule seems pretty full.
For Switch 2 stuff, I feel like they could
That's
put
true.
more Switch stuff in there if they wanted. Also, I feel like a Nintendo Direct is usually pretty good if they have a couple of like new first party things to show off,
Right.
which they could do pretty easily by showing maybe a couple things for Switch if they wanted to, plus some Switch 2 stuff for next year, which we don't
Right.
really have any of.
Right.
And then some third party stuff that it seems like there's a lot of third party things for Switch 2 in the ether that
That's
haven't
true.
been announced.
Right.
So I feel like even without blowing off, the doors, they could do a respectable direct for June.
So you think it's still possible that there is another Switch 1 game coming out this year besides the 2 that have already come out and the 2 more that we know about?
I do. I think it's possible for summer, but I agree with you that when you're looking at it holistically, Nintendo's calendar is pretty like full for the year.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of their focus is on Switch 2, so maybe they don't feel the need to release something specifically for Switch over the next like 2 or 3 months.
But also, I mean, yes, that is definitely true, and also the direction I was leading you. But like, I don't. I've said it a couple times. Nintendo so far to this point in the year has put out 2 games, and I know they're rolling out a bunch for the launch of the Switch 2, and the rest of the year seems like crowded. But like, they put out 2 games in the first 5 months of the year.
Yeah, and there are a lot of Switches out there.
Yep.
That you want to give people a reason to engage with your console, because even if they're not picking up a Switch 2 at launch, I don't feel like you want to neglect them because you still want them actively in your ecosystem and interested in Nintendo stuff.
And like every time that they put out a game that has a Switch and a Switch 2 version, that like it's going to introduce that like question of like you can get the old one, and then that's one more thing to look forward to when you upgrade to Switch 2 is that you pay 10 more bucks and now you have like an even better version of it. And I think like that, because people are going to start buying games that have these the easy Switch 2 upgrade. First of all, they have already, but like with Metroid Prime 4, with Pokemon Legends Arceus, that like your
ZA.
Oh, ZA, you're right. I'm sorry. You're already sort of building your Switch 2 library as you're buying Switch 1 games.
Right. And so there's not really any harm other than just like how many things can Nintendo do at one time.
Right.
Like, so it will be interesting to see. But
Well, and remember that last year, there were a lot of games that came out last year. Nintendo published 11 games last year. But so few of them were developed in-house by Nintendo.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of, it seems like, anyway, they have a lot of irons in the fire.
But we're all just kind of like assuming that Nintendo will do the same thing and as they've done in the previous years. But, a brand new console launch in June could be a good time to reset the patterns.
Totally.
And so maybe we won't get anything in June.
Yep. We always like to think that we can predict what Nintendo's going to do by looking at what they have done, and that is always foolish. We're just punching in now from like a half hour in the future because Mark remembered a point that he wanted to make about this possible Nintendo Direct happening this week, next week.
Oh yeah, okay. So I know that I said that if Nintendo follows their pattern, it is most likely to happen in the like second half of the month.
Right.
But I wanted to go back to, even though I totally forgot about it, but I did want to go back to the Nintendo Music update and saying that there's no update next week.
And for the first time ever, they're telling us ahead of time that there's no update next week.
Which, I mean, is that because there's going to be a Nintendo Direct next Tuesday?
Is it?
I don't know.
Just posing all relevant questions here.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure that we circled back on that.
All right, now back to the show in progress.
Finally, Nintendo did some updates to their mobile apps. Nintendo Today, you can link your personal calendar with a Nintendo Today calendar.
No thanks.
And then I can kind of see the argument for the reverse, where you could like import the Nintendo Today calendar into your calendar app.
Right.
But it makes sense why Nintendo wouldn't want to do that, because they want you to be in the Nintendo Today app, not you getting their content outside of it. You can now set...
Which, surprise, of course you're getting all of your Nintendo Today content outside of the app.
Well, they also limited the ability to, like, if you're video recording, like screen recording or taking screenshots of a video in the Nintendo Today app, they blank out the content now. Like if you try to like screenshot
Yes.
Netflix or something.
Right.
So they are really trying to encourage people to check out Nintendo Today if they want to see a video, instead of, you know, following somebody on Blue Sky and just watching it there.
Right. But also the counter argument is, how do you even know that you want to go to this thing if people aren't sharing content from it?
Yeah. I mean, hey, good point. You can set favorites and just filter just by your favorites if there's like a news story that you want to save and then go back and look at it later. And now you can get this, zoom in on images.
I don't know. I don't know what this. I don't know. I don't know what this thing is.
Well, I think it's like, thank goodness, because
Right.
you know, they would have these screenshots of like Mario Kart World or something, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. Let me look closer. Oh, I can't.
Right.
Like this is a 16:9 screenshot on my phone that I cannot zoom into. So presumably that's been fixed.
It's just another thing where I'm like, what do you imagine is the use case for this?
Well, how else are you going to look at an HDMI cable?
I really want to see what's imprinted on the HDMI cable.
Nintendo Music has been updated, and included in that is a sleep timer.
Oh, that's nice.
And then finally, the Nintendo Switch
So like it'll turn off after like a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
playing
that's right.
music?
That's right.
Interesting.
And then the Nintendo Switch Online app had an update to now just the Nintendo Switch app, as they had like previously announced was going to happen. So it has the new name, some nice things as far as like screenshot uploads go, and screen recordings go for the Switch 2. So the ones that are taken on your Switch 2 can be transferred to the app directly, instead of having to do like scan the QR code and like connect to the local network and all that kind of stuff. Or you can also set it up so that way it transfers automatically. So the last like 100 files will be displayed for 30 days after the initial upload, which is cool.
That does not come with an upgrade on the length of video clips that you can take. It's still kind of maxed out at 30 seconds.
You can now add friends via the app, and you can view friends' profiles and get notified when they're online.
Sort of nice.
Yeah. You can receive game chat invites and notifications in the app.
Interesting, but you cannot like answer them in the app.
I don't think so, because, you know, one of the main functions of the original Nintendo Switch Online app was that's how Nintendo facilitated voice chat.
Right.
I'm assuming that still exists for the original Switch, like buried in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah, great question.
But I don't know how that works for the Switch 2. My guess would be no, since they're so like focused on the Switch 2 camera and stuff.
Yeah, my guess would also be no, because then it's kind of like if it was designed to work with the cameras that everyone has in the phones that they already have, then they wouldn't, like, why even sell the camera?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then finally, Zelda Notes is on there, but isn't activated yet. So just have to wait a few more days for that.
I was just pulling it up now to see if I could. So yeah, we can see Zelda Notes right there.
Yeah.
And I can tap on it. Oh, it says coming soon.
Yep.
It knows.
Just a few more days.
Just a few more days. Are you going to be using the Zelda Notes app as you play through Breath of the Wild?
I don't know. I am not much of like I like to consume my Zelda lore after the fact through YouTube videos that other people have like done the research and compiled and can tell a story that way. But I feel like I will definitely check it out when I do a Breath of the Wild playthrough.
Yeah.
I just don't know how much I'll engage with it.
There are like those Zelda like audio.
Yeah, for every location in the game.
That's
crazy.
It's crazy. It's so much content.
Yeah.
That I kind of just, not that the Zelda voice actor performance was my favorite in Breath of the Wild, but like Yeah, so maybe that'll be the limiting factor, is that I'll listen to one and go like, oh, never mind.
But there's also other features in there, right? Like I know
Yeah,
for Tears of the Kingdom
yes.
you can share builds and all that kind of stuff.
Right, but there's also the
shrine
voice
pinging
navigation.
thing. Oh, right.
Right, that you can say
right.
like I'm headed for this Korok, and it's like turn left at the 7-Eleven or whatever.
The Zelda, the Breath of the Wild equivalent of 7-Eleven.
Right, which I guess would be like Beetle.
A stable?
Sure, yeah, okay, a stable. When you hear Cass's concertina go down,
Yeah, I forgot about that. That is interesting.
All right, well, Mark, that's the news. Let's close this out. So on Thursday, we are creating our Switch 2 release day time capsule, where we're basically going to be recapping everything we know and then making some predictions. So that will kind of be teetering on the edge of the world before the Switch 2 and the world after the Switch 2. But I'm declaring it. This is our last episode of the world before the Switch 2.
It's so crazy because so much of the run of the show, like everything but 4 months of it or something,
Yeah.
have been Switch.
Yeah.
It feels like a momentous occasion
It
to have a
does.
Switch 2.
So we're marking it by recording an episode and releasing an episode of the show, as we've done twice a week, every week for the last 8 years. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Join the Discord if you're not in there already. People are going to be talking about their experiences with Switch 2. Email us. We'll send you an invitation. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.